Being 21 feels like standing at a crossroads. You're not a kid anymore, but you're not fully in the real world either. But here I am, trying to figure out what success even means while juggling school, work, and life. Today I want to share what my journey looks like, the struggles, the grind, and just some of the little wins as I try to build that future that I can be proud of. Being a student at this age is tough. I'm constantly bouncing between lectures and assignments and exams and just trying to keep up with everyone else and whatever life is throwing at me. Right now, I'm in my fourth and hopefully final year of university, and I can say pretty unfortunately confidently that this is the first time I'm taking it seriously. The first few years didn't never really kind of clicked in my brain, I guess, that if I really want to actually get something out of this, I need to try hard. And don't get me wrong, growing up through, high school and, all the younger grades and whatnot, I never had to try, right? It all came fairly naturally to me. I never really struggled with homework or understanding concepts and whatnot. But that difference between high school and university was absolutely huge. You know what I mean? I had taken a year off of school after I graduated, um, for many reasons, but mostly just to kind of get used to what life would be outside of high school, I guess. I tried to work for a little bit, and it was one of the most uncomfortable and just honestly miserable times in my life. And when I look back on it now, it feels like it didn't even happen. It felt so not real that I don't even know how to look at it. But now that I'm well developed in my school career now, I can look back and realize that it had to happen in order for me to get to where I'm at now. But at the time, I just wanted to make money. You know what I mean? I didn't care about what was happening next or where I would be in 5 years. All I cared about was I'm finally done school. I can do what I want, enjoy life, do whatever I can. But like I said, it ended up being miserable. I had no habits or routines other than just wake up, work, come home, and just rot. Let's be honest, I was just rotting in my house. So now, at the age of 21, looking back on that time, I can say success for me isn't about the money. Right now, at least. Don't get me wrong, I'll get to money here soon. But I didn't have everything figured out, and I still don't have everything figured out, let's be honest. But now I can realize that success for me currently is building up those habits, you know, working on my discipline, and just trying to get some momentum here to keep things going. So that means waking up on time, not missing lectures, staying consistent with studying, going to the gym and eating healthy, taking care of my health. And then something I kind of didn't focus on the last few years that I honestly regret now is networking or getting to know people, right? Making connections. That's something that I can say I didn't try very hard to do. Um, and I had opportunities to do so, but I never really took them, right? I didn't take it seriously. I kind of just thought, well, it'll happen naturally. I don't really have to do a lot of work. I'll make friends if I make friends. But it didn't happen, right? Like I never put any effort in, so I didn't get the reward. So now in my, again, fourth and hopefully final year, I've started too late to try to make those connections, as all of my other classmates in the same graduating year as myself, they've already established their groups. They know who their friends are and they know each other by name and whatnot, and I'm just kind of there. I was too focused in my earlier years at going to the gym and working to make money on the side while I'm in school, which I can say both of those negatively affected my school. Um, there were times where I would choose going to the gym or going for a run, whatnot, instead of studying or finishing an assignment. And that affected my grades. You know what I mean? I missed out on work and grades that I should have been getting if I had just put the time in rather than going out and, you know, just exercising. Now, don't get me wrong, I don't necessarily regret doing that because I can now, I have those habits built up that I don't really have to work on now because I worked on them in the past. But again, I think I could have rearranged things a little bit and been more successful now than I could have been. But you know what they say, right? Success is sacrifice. I missed out on plenty of nights out with friends or going to getting the quintessential university experience. You know what I mean? I can count on one hand the amount of times I've gone out to school events or gone out to the bar with friends and whatnot, right? I get tired, I get overwhelmed, and I consistently burn out. But I've started reminding myself that this is the foundation, right? These are the years where I set myself up for the future. And yeah, I mean, it's not glamorous or pretty, but I think it will be worth it. I've recently gotten to the habit of getting my money right. So I have always been kind of liberal with my money, or free spirited, I guess, in the sense that I've always had a good kind of, I've always saved well and been okay with my money, but I've never shied away from spending it. You know what I mean? Going out for dinner, every weekend, and getting fast food for lunch or dinner every few nights. It never really bothered me, or I never really considered what it would do, until recently. I thought about it and I kind of did some calculations and whatnot of what will happen when I graduate. The money I'll be making and the bills I'll be paying and whatnot. And you realize very quickly that when you look at what you're spending and what your money is going to, how just bad it makes you feel about where it's going, right? So I've cut down on my spending a lot, especially on some unnecessary things, like I said, like fast food and all that stuff. But I've started investing as well, and I'm not trying to sound like, finance bro, whatever, but I've started putting money into some stocks and some ETFs and whatnot. And although we're not up currently, maybe 1%, I think, in the last month, um, it's a start, right? And if I continue to put some money there every month, every few weeks and whatnot, I I think I'll have a good base for when I, get to 40 or 50, whatnot, right? So yeah, I'm just a 21-year-old student trying to figure it all out. And step by step, if you're watching this and you feel the same way, confused or stressed, whatnot, just know that you are in the same situation as so many others, right? We're all trying to build the same thing, something better for ourselves. And success isn't a destination, it's a process. And right now, I think we're all in the middle of it. But thanks, guys. Peace.